Welcome, everyone, to the One More Game podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeremy Culver, a.k.a. Darcy, and with me, I have a special guest returning for the second time on the podcast. It's Melissa White. Melissa, how are you doing?
Great. How are you?
I am doing well. I'm excited to be here and have you on the podcast again. Last time we were on the podcast, I lived in Wisconsin. I was moving to the house that I'm sitting in now, and, at that time, I was prepared for this big journey, this big change, and now we're here. And you, obviously, at the same time, were prepared for a big journey because you've done a lot in the last, year and a half, 2 years almost from that time frame. So for the people who have not been here and to kind of get into yourself here, is tell people on the podcast a little bit about yourself. I'm glad to have you once again.
I'm always so bad at these intros. I'm like, me? Who am I? So I'm Melissa. I'm a voice actor. I'm coming up on, in 6 days, I've been voice acting for 5 years.
Woo!
I'm coming up on my 5-year voice acting anniversary. And last time I was on this podcast, I hadn't even been doing it for 2 years. So that's kind of crazy.
Yes.
I voice act mostly in video games and commercials, but I do a little bit of everything. And I'm trying to, I guess I could talk about, my biggest projects people might care about. I've been in Genshin Impact, Black Beacon, Ether Gazer, Fortnite,
AI Limit.
I don't, AI Limit, yeah. Yes. That sounds like a good list.
yeah, that's a good one. I say that because, of course, Melissa knows I'm a fan of AI Limit, had been looking at it. We were just talking about it before we came on the episode about AI Limit. So, of course, having an opportunity to plug it real quick again always feels good. But yeah, Melissa, you have been doing quite a bit of things. Obviously, as you said, early or last time you were on here, it was still fairly early in your career. You had done several things, obviously, up to those points. A number of things you were like, I can't talk about it yet because it hadn't released. I know that, of course, well, I shouldn't say of course. Likely, most of those have released at this point, which is great. But again, you've been a friend of the podcast, a friend to me, so thank you so much for coming back. And as you know, here for this episode, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of interview you about your voice actor journey, some of the roles that you've done, and obviously help give us a little bit of information, especially for those who might be checking out and watching this podcast, who might be interested in, trying to follow your footsteps like yourself. So are you ready and excited to be here to do this?
Yeah, I actually am.
See, look at that.
I am ready and excited.
already getting into the voice actor part of it. So I'm just going to get the rigmarole of the beginning out of here. So everyone, welcome to the One More Game podcast. If this is your first time to the podcast, this is a podcast that is centered around usually making sure you're informed about all the video game news happening around the world. But today, it's about voice acting. Whether you're listening to this on any of your podcast services, that might be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any of the other ones, make sure you are leaving a good review so that, of course, other people can find the One More Game podcast. Normally, I would be doing this each and every week is normally the part of the rigmarole, but I'm coming back into it. So we'll see how things go. But, of course, hopefully you guys will be here for the next podcast. But as Melissa might remember from the last time that she was on, we start off every podcast talking about what we've been playing lately. So, Melissa, what video games have you been playing lately?
I have a Dead by Daylight addiction.
You do.
I play it all the time. All the time, dude. And I'm terrible at it, but I'm just like, I don't know. It's like getting chased by the killer just to feel something, man. So I play a lot of Dead by Daylight. I have been playing Pokemon Legends ZA. And I was playing Silent Hill F, but I kind of dropped off. But I think those are the 3 I've played most recently.
All right, I have to ask because in the general scheme of things, the one that I've played the most recently and beat is Pokemon Legends ZA. So how are you feeling about that game, especially with the change to more of the real-time combat aspect?
Oh, I was incredibly overstimulated when I first got into one of the battles. I was like, what is this? I was stressed. Because that, I started out playing the first games, and it's come such a long way since Pokemon Red and Blue. But I don't know, I like it because it feels like kind of like that beat 'em up style combat. And I think it's really fun. It's just like an adjustment. Once you get used to it, it's really fun. But at first, you're thinking, "Whoa, what is that?"
Yeah. It was when I first started it, and I knew, of course, about the change and stuff. It took a little bit, like you said, to kind of like get acclimated on it, and the thing that changes about that game, and I will preface this with, I am not a competitive Pokemon player, so I'm only speaking this because it used to play a little bit in my head, is like speed mattered so much in that game. But now in Pokemon Legends ZA, it's about like, what is the cooldown of your skills? And so that was kind of the thing that I had to like change my mindset from. But I did really enjoy it. I think I gave it a 9 out of 10 based on my own personal rating of like where I played it. And on my tier list, I put it on an A ranking. I didn't think it was quite S tier, but it was still really, really good. One game that I would recommend you check out if you haven't already, Melissa, is 1,000 Time Resist. That game is a phenomenal game. Great voice acting in it. And that was one of my S tier games. So I would highly recommend it. But yeah, so for myself, I have, since I last talked with you, at that time I kept talking about, I was like, I jump around from game to game. I've been trying not to do that. So lately, what I've actually been playing is I'm finally getting into Devil May Cry over Christmas.
Nice.
My wife bought me all the Devil May Cry games. It was on a Humble Bundle. She bought it for me and got it to me. So I've finished Devil May Cry 1. I'm currently playing Devil May Cry 2. And I've also been playing a lot of Elden Ring Night Rain, and I'm having such a good time with that game. It's surprising how much that game, like you said, you have an addiction to Dead by Daylight. It's surprising how much I keep thinking about Elden Ring Night Rain to go play over and over with one of my good friends here for the channel. So those are kind of the main things for myself when it comes to that. But let's get into the actual part of the podcast. We started off talking about what we've been playing lately, but let's talk about you, Melissa. So, of course, as we mentioned last time you were on the podcast, it was a pre-recorded episode, so I think we recorded it, early September, maybe it was late August, but I remember it came out when I was moving here, which was in September of 2022. Obviously, been a long time. You've done a lot of things since then. And as I told you earlier, on there you were like, kept saying, I've only been a voice actor for a year and 8 months, but who's counting? But now you've been counting down to 5 years. So let me ask you, just to start this thing off, how does it feel to be coming upon your 5-year mark of being a voice actor?
It feels pretty insane, because it feels like it's been a long time and also no time at all. Because I think there's still that feeling of, I haven't really done a whole lot. I feel like that's something that doesn't really go away, especially if you're on social media, because it's like, oh, everybody's doing all these things, which is amazing. But at the same time, it's like, oh, it's just hard not to play the comparison game when it comes to that. But overall, it's been so cool. And what I've been doing at the end of each year is I've been compiling a collage of the clients that I've worked with and the games that I've worked on, whatever has happened that year. And it reminds me, hey, I actually have done quite a bit of stuff, So it feels really cool, and I feel really lucky to be able to get to do this and get paid. It's kind of crazy. I'm like, people want to hear my annoying voice? Amazing. I love that for me.
So obviously, as you know, we follow each other on social media, and yeah, you had posted, of course, on December 23rd, the clients that you've been working with. And as you made mention before, you do a little bit of everything, but mostly video games, but just kind of talking about, and we'll talk about, of course, some of these in this episode, video game wise, guys. You had AI Limit in here, Black Beacon, Aether Gazer, Punishing Gray Raven in here. You also, of course, talking about just businesses, you had Netflix in here, you had Amazon, you have Faberware, Cash App, a bunch of different things. So, as you said, it's great that you do that, to have that mentality or that mindset of sometimes when you're in the day-to-day, it can feel like, I didn't do much this year. But when you look at, a post like this, you get that full breadth of it. And so did you start that for that same reason, to try to like kind of keep reframing your head of like the accomplishments you've done each year? Because how hard can it be to keep that in mind when you're going through the day-to-day?
Well, to be honest, I started doing it because everyone else was, and humans are sheep, and we just do what everybody else does.
Hey, great answer.
Well, I'm just being honest. So I see a lot of people make these collages, and here are the characters I voiced this year, and all kinds of stuff like that. And I'm like, well, I want to be included, but I've also thought about it with that lens of, this is actually really healthy for me to do this so that I can remind myself I didn't just sit around and twiddle my thumbs all year. Like, I actually book stuff, and I go back and calculate finances and stuff to see how I did in that regard. And I make sure that I frequently do those types of things just so that I remember that I'm not a total failure, like my brain tells me on a daily basis.
Our brain is the biggest critic, so I totally understand that. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about some extra things when it comes to some of the roles that you did in 2025. So one thing that may make you feel happy, when you say your brain is the biggest critic, is when I typed in a Google search of Melissa White, there was a violinist who's obviously, of course, very famous, that popped up very first. But the very second link was Melissa White IMDb page. So congratulations on being my very second part of it. And of course, again, like, you've done so many different things across the year. And I'm going to go through some of these, but one of them that I did want to go through is talking about Apex Girls. So Apex Girls was obviously a video game that came out in the last year, and you voiced a number of characters in this. We talked about it a little bit in the first episode. If you guys have not been here for the past episode, of course, Melissa was talking about, how her career went, how she got started, things like that. And we'll get into some of those things. But one of the things we talked about in that episode is you said, your natural voice can land you roles, right? Yeah, that is your most authentic voice. But talk to me about when you're casted as multiple characters within a single game. How hard or how difficult can it be for you trying to help make sure each character stays unique and feels different as you go about your recordings?
Oh, it's incredibly hard, especially when the characters are the same age. It's different when it's like, hey, voice this young adult woman, now voice this little girl, now voice this little boy, now voice this 45-year-old woman, So that's easier to differentiate when it comes to age.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to like, okay, they're all young adult women, I'm like, oh no. So you have to think about each individual personality and speech patterns, and maybe they've got like a little rasp in their voice, or maybe they're super clear and like up here, because everybody's got slightly different voices no matter what age they are. But you really have to break things down, and I have to do that with audiobooks too, because we're voicing a full cast in an audiobook a lot of the time. And so it's like, okay, well, I only have so many like hot young man voices, as a woman. So I'm like, so how are they different? So you really have to break down like, who are they? And I also really like to think of a character that this character reminds me of. And I'm like, how do they speak? And pull inspiration from work that's already out there. So it's just like, you kind of have to think outside the box a little bit. And even then it's hard, because it's like, you could still hear like qualities of everybody's voice, unless you're Tara Strong or somebody who is that kind of like vocal chameleon. But yeah, it's tough. But for that game, I was just trying to think about like, okay, who are they and what kind of vibe do they give off?
Yeah, and so how does it, like, when you, obviously I understand a little bit about the audition process from our past conversation, but how does the audition process go, especially when it is like multiple characters like that? Are you inherently auditioning for all these characters, or is it kind of like you're auditioning for, let's say, a specific character, and then the voice director or the voice coach or casting director says, hey, I actually want you to fill multiple of these roles? Like, I guess, what's been your experience in that range?
It's both. It just depends on the project. There are some where it's like, here are 30 different characters, audition for as many as you would like. And then there's some where it's like, okay, we're casting the full cast based on this one like female audition. And that's the case where it's like you might book something you didn't even know was an option. So it depends on the project. But I would say for these games where I'm voicing multiple characters, usually it is here's 30 characters, audition for as many as you want. And then the client will be like, great, you're voicing these 5 characters.
And you're probably immediately like, yes, let's go.
Yeah, right. I am. It's great.
And obviously, want to give, of course, some shout outs to the chat. Thank you guys so much for commenting in here. If you have questions for Melissa, please drop them in the chat, of course. And as we go through the episode, I'm going to look down and grab some of them and, of course, throw them out to Melissa. But I want to talk about, so thank you for talking a little bit about that, because, of course, that was something that stood out to me as I was looking through the IMDb page earlier today. And, of course, doing exactly what I think most people would do is I was like, okay, last time I talked with you, of course, your IMDb page had not as many listings. So I was trying to see is like, what is the full range of things that you have done since then, outside of me and, of course, you checking in every once in a while. But we talked briefly before the podcast, and you said, okay, I won't talk about it now because I know you're going to bring it up later. And I'm going to bring it up now, which is AI Limit. Okay, so AI Limit, as we made mention, is a game that I have not played yet, but I was enamored by when it first got announced by PlayStation many years ago. And when it finally was starting to come back to light and we were going to have a release date, I obviously put out a video and then later found out you were in AI Limit, so that it made it like even more exciting for me. How did that come about? How did you end up finding or getting the opportunity to be in a game like AI Limit?
Huge shout out to my good friend Whitney Holland. Amazing human, but she referred me to the client who was casting this game. And she had worked with them before, and they were like, hey, do you know any other female voice actors? Because we have a bunch of roles we need to cast for the next game. And so she referred me as one of the people that she sent over, and I ended up getting cast as Ursula. So sometimes it really is just like making those connections and friendships with people, because then we look out for each other. It's a small community, and I know I'm always like, oh, you need help with this casting? I got you. And I'll send people who I love and are great actors over. But yeah, it was actually my friend got me the gig, which happens sometimes.
And that's awesome. Was it in the sense when she recommended you, was it you knew immediately that they were trying to cast you for Ursula, or was it more of a kind of an open recommendation of, hey, I recommend this voice actor, and then you kind of sent over your reel to let them kind of, I guess, figure out where you might feel best fit?
So it was just a general recommendation, and then I was sent auditions for a few characters. Okay. And I think it was like 5 characters, and they ended up picking me for Ursula, which was funny because it was a lot of like pain noises, and I'm like, I wasn't like very skilled in those at the time, and I was like, I'm gonna try. So I was so surprised when I booked Ursula in particular, but I was like, this is great.
Yeah, I remember when you announced on Instagram the role that you were the voice actor, you had put in there, I love doing this because I just had to do all these screams in pain the entire time.
Yes. Yep. It was one of the hardest sessions I've had to this date because it was just hours of screaming. Mm-hmm. And I'd never had that before. So it was something I wasn't familiar with and hadn't like had as much practice with. But a lot of times when you're localizing, there's a reference that like, oh, this is what the actor did in the original language. And so it's like you're kind of mimicking the actor who has already recorded. And that's what this was. And I was like, oh, thank goodness, because I'm not as familiar with like this kind of voice acting. So it was really, really helpful. What wasn't helpful is the session was in August and I was sweating my butt off in my booth.
Yeah, for those that don't know,
Screaming.
Melissa lives in Arizona, so I can imagine it being very hot in there.
Yeah, oh man. I was not live, laugh, loving, let me tell you. I was having a great time, but I was like, I'm so glad my camera is not on for this session because nobody wants to see this.
So how did he I guess I got to ask for this because we didn't talk about it in the last time, is when you voice act a character, are you the type of person who post-release starts to look at how the community or the wider audience is receiving certain characters? Or are you the kind of person who kind of goes, okay, in a sense, I've put a bow on that character's released, and if anecdotally I find out like how players are reacting to it, great, and I move on. Which camp do you kind of feel like you fit more in?
I wish I was the latter, but I'm the former. So I try to find like every video I can on each character, like every Reddit post or whatever, because I'm curious, I'm curious about the reception, and unfortunately sometimes I get my feelings hurt because I do that, and then I have to remind myself it doesn't matter how well I do. There's always going to be people who don't like your work because it's subjective.
Oh yeah.
So it's like they could just hate my voice, and what am I going to do about that? Like that's just what I got going on for me. Like yeah, I feel like for most of my roles, people have been really nice. Like for Ursula, people were very, very nice
Oh yeah.
about my performance. So it depends on the character, and like sometimes the fan base. It depends on the fan base. Some of them are gnarly and not very nice. So it's just, yeah, I look more than I should.
Yeah, I totally feel you. So I would be a hypocrite if I was like, don't do that, because that's me, all the time. But I was going to ask off of that because, like, with the searches, as I looked up, obviously there's a lot of talk about Ursula, in the character, and obviously Ursula being a boss fight that players have to overcome. Obviously, there's some that are just not mad about your voice acting, but mad about the character because she's really hard to get around. So, like, how did that feel, I guess, like, in that sense of you playing as Ursula was a boss character and can be, for instance, a prohibitive factor for some people, but like seeing that there's still such a connection that people build off of a character like that?
I thought that was really cool because when I was recording for her, I didn't know she was like gonna be debatably the hardest boss in the game, is what some people have been saying.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Mwahaha, I get to be the hardest fight in the game." And it's just like, I like that it is the case because I'm not gonna spoil anything, but like her story is just so like gut wrenching. And so it's like it's not the typical like evil boss because she's not evil at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that was really cool that it's just like I don't know. I thought that I still see people doing like Ursula like challenges and stuff, and the game's been out for almost a year at this point.
Yeah.
And so it's cool to see that people are still so into it and talking about it, and I like that my character has that kind of significance even though she doesn't have that many lines.
Yeah. I mean, hey, at the same time, as you already knew this, is your voice acting lends to the experience that those characters or the players feel. And so even with minimal lines, you can have a huge impact. And obviously, Ursula's character, again, being a boss, forces kind of some sort of an impact, but it has a lasting impact, as you said, of just like that experience and what makes that battle, even more engrossing, I should say, off of that.
Mhm.
One thing I did want to talk to about, and I know I will preface this with Melissa did say, okay, so we're going to cry on this episode. I'm going to talk a little bit about Black Beacon, because with Black Beacon, I think arguably that was you were the voice actor for Zero in it, and arguably considered that is one of the, if not one, the main character in the game. So this was a gacha game that came out in 2025, and unfortunately just recently shut down. But first, let's talk about the beginning part of it. So how did you come about that role, and tell me about your reaction when you got casted as Zero, who is like on all the cover arts and all that jazz?
Oh, it was insane. So it was through a roster I'm on for a localization studio that I had worked with previously, and they sent me a couple auditions over for a few characters that they thought maybe I'd be a good fit for, and Zero was one of them. And it's funny you mentioned Elden Ring, because the voice reference was a character in Elden Ring who kind of like spoke in a monotone, like really slow way. And the character, I mean, as you know, a lot of the characters in Elden Ring are British. And so I was like, do they want the accent? So I did like a take in a British accent and a take in an American accent. My British accent is not very strong, admittedly. I can pull off like the fantasy, like fake British accent, but it's not authentic. So I was like, well, we're gonna try it because that's what the reference had. My audition was bad because I focused on the reference too much, and I was like, oh, when I got in the session, I was like, this doesn't fit Zero. Like, she wouldn't talk that slowly. Um, so, um, so yeah, I was cast as Zero. I had no idea she was the main character. No idea. I was just like, oh, she's cute. You know, it's like, I really like her art. I love that she has a bird. And I was really excited to start recording for her, because I was like, oh, it's a gacha game. You know, everybody loves gacha games. They're like the thing. And yeah, I recorded regularly for her, of course, because she's the main character. And it was just really, really cool. Really cool experience. And then to see that it had like small but really dedicated fan base, and getting to do like having that be my biggest role to date, and getting to do like print signings and streaming the game, and like you know, just having that kind of special connection with the fan base was something that I'd never had before. So it was a really, really special experience.
I totally can imagine. One thing I wanted to ask, just based off you saying there, is like, you got this reference piece, you were working on it, and you ended up following it a little too much. I guess because we didn't talk about it last time, is talk to me about these reference pieces, and obviously from what you just said, sometimes how to take from that reference piece can vary, but how do you, in your experience, take these reference pieces, learn from it, and work with, molding that reference piece into you to be as authentic of the character that you can be? Because as you said, Zero, once you started looking at it, was like, this isn't how she would be.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like it's something that it's hard because you never know what the client is looking for. They'll send that as a reference, but they could just mean tone, or they could just mean pacing, or they could just mean, worst of all, vibe. I'm like, what does that mean? So it's just like, if you're lucky, you have art of the character and you can kind of infer from that, but a lot of times you don't. So it's just like, here's this voice reference, and you have like a description of the character. And so you can sometimes cut out like, oh, okay, it wouldn't be like, she's not like super, maybe not as, I mean, Zero wouldn't be this case, but maybe she's not as monotone, like based on the description. But I think I've gotten better about not taking them so seriously, but they'll be like, hey, we like this character in Genshin Impact as like the reference for this character. And I'm like, okay. And then like, I just kind of interpret it in the way that I want. I'm like, they probably just want the voice to sound like that, but take away the mannerisms. So it varies a lot. And a lot of times you're going to be wrong. And that's okay. Like, You just, I don't know. Sometimes they confuse me, but for the most part, I like having the reference because I think it is helpful.
Well, I think like something that I took away from our last interview that I'll bring up is you kind of talked about is sometimes in the being wrong is part of the best learning experiences because you're able to pick up, as you just said, some of those things that you described, you were able to infer from because you were wrong. If you were correct every single time that it came to you, the first time you get wrong, you'd be like, wait, what? I've always done it this way, type of thing. So let's go back to talking about Zero because obviously, as you said, main role, you got to do a lot of cool things off of this. And then the news comes out many months, in that the global version of the game is unfortunately being shut down. And I believe when I was looking it up today that the last day was on December 31st or December 30th, one of those two. How do you react hearing something like that? With like AI limit, the game is here, it's ready to play. But when it's a gacha game, there's always a chance, there's always a timeline where there's a cutoff. So how was your reaction when you heard that was going to happen?
I cried a lot because it was my like first really big thing, or could have been something really big. And it only lasted for like 7 months, which is abysmal. And I just like, I was invested not only as like the voice of the character, but I was a big fan of the game itself. Because I was playing through every chapter and I was like, this is amazing. I really, really liked it. I'm not usually a gacha fan. I find the stories to be a little too, like, I feel like I'm not really the target audience for them. They're a little, I don't know. But Black Beacon was really mature. And I was like, oh, and there was a lot of like darkness and depth to it. And I really liked the characters. And I was in it with 2 of my closest friends too. And so they were really upset about it as well. And it was just, oh, it was devastating, man. Like, I was just like, wow, we can't have nice things. I was just like, I saw it coming though, because I hadn't recorded in quite some time. And I'm like, well, either they're cutting the English dub or they're shutting down the game. And sure enough, they shut down global. So
Yeah.
I was really, really bummed.
Yeah, and I was watching some things on it, watched a YouTuber about it, and kind of getting a full experience of it. And yeah, like I think that there was, it seemed like there was a consensus from those that played of just the promise that the game had, and unfortunately, there's just always things that go on with behind the scenes, with the studios, that is just hard to predict. That goes that way. Did you do any like I know you said you cried, so of course I get that, but did you do any kind of like last planes of it or anything? Like how did you cope with kind of losing that character in a sense, because obviously the character is still alive in the sense of there's always videos on it, there's character arts, there's all those things, but like how did you cope with that kind of that announcement, I guess?
I'm still trying to figure it out.
Okay.
I'm like, I don't know if I've coped yet, but I did open the game for the last time and like grabbed some of my lines. I think like one of the most devastating things for me is the devs completely shut down everything. So like the Reddit, the YouTube, the Twitter, all the social media stuff is just gone. And I know there are a lot of fans, or I won't say a lot, but there are some fans who like started an archive where they're storing all of the stuff from the game and the social media and all that. But it's just like it just tried to get like erased from the internet, and that sucks because I'm just like so much hard work and like dedication put into this, and then there's just nothingness. So I think that was really hard for me. I'm just like trying to remind myself that there are always going to be more opportunities, and there are, and there have been already. So it's like, but I was just very attached to that, and I'm like, okay, well now I need to like maybe learn to not be so attached to my roles. Maybe
Yeah.
that's the lesson there.
Yeah, I mean it's a hard balance. I definitely could understand that. But like you said, there's definitely many roles. I know, even like I said on your IMDb page, which I pointed off to the left because I have it sitting up here anyways to just ask more questions. It's like you have a number of upcoming announcements coming from that. So of course more is on the horizon, but you know I guess off of that is you've been in a number of other gotcha games. In a sense, it's kind of, I guess the question I have off of that is, did that experience change how you approach any of them, or is it a situation of like again, no one knows the timeline of any gotcha game, but is it something that just like it's painful just because of this one's particular instances, but like, do you have any changes of how you approach or look at other gotcha games in your voice acting career?
I think I'm just learning that, like, if not even just gotcha games, but if games are newer and they're planning to be long running, to just not get my hopes up. But if it's something that, has been going for a long time, like Punishing Gray Raven, I'm like, oh, well, this is like here to stay. But those, it's just different because I was with Zero from the beginning, and like it was kind of her story in a way. Like all the characters in it had their own storylines, but Zero was always there because she was the guide for the player. And so it's like it's different to record a one-off in a gotcha game than like, oh no, this is like I'm in this game like for the long haul. So I'm just like, next time I get if I don't know, I can't control it. Fingers crossed, but next time I get to voice a main character in any kind of game, I'm just gonna be like, well, it might not last forever unless it's like okay, this is a one-time release, the game's out, it's done. But yeah, if it's one of those longer ones, I'm gonna be like, you never know.
Yeah, totally understand it. Well, let's shift course a little bit. Let's talk about some happy things, because you've done some really cool things, of course, in 2025, or at least cool in my opinion. Maybe you feel differently, but I'm going to still sit here because I told you before I'm one of your big supporters. Let's talk first about you being a casting director last year. That was something that, of course, I stumbled across when you were doing that, and I remember 2 years ago. I'm going to say 2 years ago, even though technically it's 2.5 years ago. You were still earlier in your career, and we were talking about, kind of learning from various things. How did getting to be a casting director kind of come about for you? And how does it feel, I guess, going through that, I guess that line of the voice acting, I guess, family tree is what I'm going to call it.
So funny story about that. I actually got into casting through Twitch. So, one time I was streaming, and a game dev I had worked with, I was voicing in his game. He came in, he told me how overwhelmed he was because he was doing a casting call for the next round of characters in his game. And I was like, I mean, I could do it. I was like, like if you're overwhelmed and you don't have time, I have time, I can do it. And so he took me up on that, and I ended up casting for his game. And because of that, I ended up just putting casting director on all my stuff. Not to like flex and be like, yeah, I do casting. Like, I don't care. I would actually rather people not look at me in that way, because people can get a little weird about that. But because I wanted more casting opportunities, because I'm like, if people don't know I do this, if people don't know I offer this service, then like they're not gonna be like, hey, can you help me?
100%.
So yeah, I've cast a couple games. I actually in November just started casting for a studio in LA called One Line Studios. They're amazing, incredible team of people. My friend is the head of casting there, and she was like, hey, we need help. Do you have time for this? Feel free to say no. She was very like respectful of boundaries and stuff. She's like, I know it's a lot. But if I hadn't put it out there that I do casting stuff, then I probably wouldn't have gotten that opportunity. And having that friendship, again, the friendship really pays off, and not to be like, oh, make friends with people to get something. Like the authentic friendships really
Agreed.
pay off.
Agreed.
So yeah, it's just like a lot of it's right place, right time, and the connections that you have. So
Yeah, I mean, in every industry, it's always talked about network, right? Network is going to be one of your biggest friends because, of course, it will help you when, like you said, opportunities come about. Hypothetically, Melissa might be like, "Oh, this is a good situation for Jeremy, so let me go ask him and see if he'd be down for it." But as you said, is like you can't go into the networking with the goal of like, if I become friends with them, then they'll do this and stuff. It has to be a genuine friendship to make happen. So going off of that is, what is it like doing a casting director stuff? Because of course, my brain tells me what it could be like, but like you actually went through it. You're actually going through it. So what is it like, and how does it felt, I guess, like I said, kind of being on that other side of it, whereas normally you're sending all these auditions hoping that a casting director brings you in. How does it feel to be on the opposite side of it in these situations?
it's been really helpful to me as an actor because I can hear all the decisions that actors are making in their auditions, and I'm thinking about, that stood out, and I can like call that out and do something similar in a future audition that I have. So like pulling out these moments that are like, oh, this is really interesting. I like what they did there. And I just learn a lot from casting because I get to listen to all these really talented people. And I'm like, well, I'm still new in a way. Like 5 years is not that long to be be acting. There's always more to learn. But a lot of these people I'm listening to are veterans. And so they're like, they've been in the game, like they know what's up. And so I think it's helped me as an actor, but it's also like, it's been really satisfying to tell people they booked something. That's like my favorite part because I'm like, oh, I get to share good news, and they always get really excited, and I just like making people happy, and I like finding new people. That's part of my thing too. I'm like, oh, I've seen you around on social media, and you're always like really positive and fun and supportive, and so I like bringing people in and giving them that chance, and then when they book something, I'm like, oh my God, yes, you deserve this. This is what we've been waiting for. So there's a lot of great things about it. It is incredibly time consuming though, because you're listening to hundreds of auditions.
Oh, I can imagine.
um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, I think like you talked about before is like you were doing, and I know I'm terrible at guesstimating, so I'm going to tell you right now, I'm probably getting way off, but I remember just like from before, it's like you were putting in auditions, like, 15, 20 auditions, like constantly, like trying to like, book something. So I can imagine you're on the casting side of it, you're now facing that same thing of just, you have a lot of people casting because of course it is there's a lot of people as you mentioned before that want to do this, and so
Yep.
you kind of have to keep casting not a super wide net, because I think in general, in almost every industry, if you cast too wide of a net, you dilute yourself and you end up at the same time not getting maybe the best that's for fit for yourself. But at the same time, you have to cast wide of a net, because if you're only going for one particular role and that fills up, well, then it's like I don't have anything after that. So I can imagine you have quite a bit to do off of that. But one thing I also think that you obviously have quite a bit to do is your own voice acting. And something I want to call out is obviously you've been doing a lot of podcast narrations or a lot of audiobooks. That was something we talked about before. But also you had gotten nominated, or the book that you were in got nominated for an award last year. That was the Hunted, if I'm reading this correctly. And
Yeah.
I have to ask about that. How did it feel to be a part of a nomination for an award?
It was insane. I've never been nominated for anything for my voice acting work. And so like even just the nomination is crazy because someone liked it enough to nominate it, because it's just like a fan nominated thing that people can do. I'm like, that's crazy that somebody went in and they were like, I really liked the narration enough to think that it deserves an award. Because, you know, like my sound quality in that was not the best. I know like people don't listen for that, but that's like a voice actor thing to listen for. But
totally get it.
yeah, but it's like so Hunted is book 1 and then Stolen is book 2. The difference in quality between those 2 books is crazy to me because like I have like a fancy home studio and also my acting has improved like between books, and so it's just like, oh, like Hunted's like baby me is what it feels like. I'm like, oh, that was like beginner girl and like somebody liked it enough. I don't know. It felt amazing to have that.
Do you know, do you remember when you recorded Hunted versus the second one? Was it a year apart, a couple of months?
So it was like a year apart.
Okay.
And I think when you're new to any skill, you improve a crazy amount in a short amount of time, like a year. Like a year can make a big difference. So yeah, it was only a year, but it was also, wow, it was a whole year.
Oh yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, is like in a number of your conversations that we talked about in the last episode, you had talked about, you know, you had to kind of learn some audio engineering because you had to edit a lot of these things. When it came to this podcast, did you have to do those same things?
Audiobooks, there's like, it depends who you're editing for. So mine were going through ACX, so like
Okay.
Amazon standard narration, like audio editing. So they have a specific set of things that you need to do to your audio, and they break it down so it's not too hard.
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, it was like it was a lot because I was editing out my mistakes and like any like long breaths that sounded unnatural, like I was gasping for air or something. So it's different than like, oh, here's this 30-second audition that I'm submitting, or like 30-second job, like commercial or something. So it was, audiobooks are definitely a marathon, and they take a lot of perseverance when it comes to your voice and vocal health, and also stamina with editing.
Yeah. Now, I know, obviously, you're going to be happy, in a sense, with landing any kind of booking. So this next question is not to try to say, like, you got to pick the choices or anything. But, like, how do you feel in your reactions when you land certain roles? Like, do you catch yourself, knowing that you're a fan, obviously, of video games, knowing that you're a fan of anime and stuff, like, do you feel like you get more hyper excited when you land things in that realm? Or has audiobooks started to, like, audiobooks and commercials, like, started to be something that maybe you were surprised by how excited you get towards them? You know, because I think everybody enters or wants to get into voice acting maybe for a certain lane, and then sometimes other lanes or opportunities open up that they end up finding out that they really love.
Yeah, so my dream was to be an anime. Have not been in any anime yet.
Yet. Keyword.
It'll come. But I am shocked by how much I love commercials. I love voicing commercials. They're short. They pay you a lot. The sessions are usually really easy. And it's just like, I was surprised, and I was like, all I want to do is anime or like be in a Persona game, which I still would love to do both, but I'm just like realizing that I love the craft itself rather than just like very specific niche areas. So I'm letting myself be open to doing all these things like audiobooks, because I'm like, well, if I'm a real voice actor and I love voice acting, then I'll like it all, you know, and that's not always the case. That's a little dramatic, but yeah, I remember in one of my very first voice acting classes, I was told by a coach, she was like, holy crap, your voice is really good for commercials. And I was like, yeah, okay. Now I voice commercials all the time. So yeah, it's interesting how things play out and how it's like, oh, they were right.
Well, that is really cool, and yes, I remember. So as I mentioned earlier, before this episode, I decided I was like, you know what, I should listen to the old episode to just to kind of see like what did I ask you, what did we talk about, and I asked you at that time. I did this thing I think I called it God mode, where I asked you like 5 rapid fire questions, and it was like, don't think about it too much, just like first thing out of your head, and I had said, what is your dream, or like what role, past, present, or future, would you have loved to be casted? And the very first thing you said was any character in Persona. so,
That hasn't changed. Has
so
not changed.
yeah, so of course I understand that's still coming. So I've asked a lot about your career, and so of course, as always, I love talking about it. But now I want to ask some questions because I do know some people in our chat are aspiring voice actors wanting to get into this. For myself, I'm sure I want to get back into this in a sense because, of course, I have experience, as you might remember from my news career, doing some voice, commercials and stuff like that. But let's talk a little bit about you in this situation. So I know when we talked before, you got into it because you were Googling on when you moved to Las Vegas and you found a local studio. So I want to ask, kind of like off of it now, moving to Arizona, how has it been with continuing to learn and educate and evolve yourself in Arizona, in your new location?
I mean, there's no voice acting studio here, but it's encouraged me to travel more. So like go to take some classes in LA or in Dallas, or take online classes because there's so many online classes now. Also, my friends, Mike Smith is in a ton of anime. Like that man is in every anime ever. And then Kieran is in so much like animation and video games, and they both do commercials. They're being insane in there.
I mean, I love it. I've been reading the chat.
Me.
I kind of figured, this is the typical friends, going on in there. Like I had my friend put in there. He's only friends with me so we can co-stream co-op games.
Yep.
So like I totally get it. But yeah. So obviously traveling, and let's talk a little bit about online classes, because I know something that I've anytime I start to look at various things, obviously not just for myself, but maybe it's because I'm trying to make sure that I'm informed and asking the best questions. Obviously, I get flooded with like, hey, here's this online class, here's this online class, here's this online thing. For yourself, not trying to have you tell me which ones are better than the other, but just in general, what are things that you look for when you're looking to take an online class to try to continue to hone your craft?
So for me, at this point in my career, I will only take classes with people who have the potential to give me work. So whether that's an agent or a casting director, that's like mostly who I work with or who I'm like interested in per se. But I look at, what do they cast? Like if it's an agency, what projects have they worked on? And I decide if that aligns with my career goals, and then I'll sign up for the class. But more than anything, I will say, I always recommend one-on-one coaching way more than classes personally. I think that they are the way to grow as an actor, like way more, because in a class, if you think about it, you're paying 100, sometimes multiple hundreds of dollars to get 5 minutes with a coach. And listening is valuable, like listening to other actors. You can learn from that. But I think if you want to break down what you specifically need to improve on, the one-on-one coaching is going to be money. And that's something I very much regret that I want to share with everybody, because I just took so many classes because I'm like, this is fun, because they're really fun. But if you're focused on improvement, then it makes more sense to do the one-on-ones. And you can also build relationships with people a lot better than in 5 minutes. Like that's hard to be like, here's a group of 10 people. I hope I stand out,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, coaching, vet them, make sure they're working, make sure that whatever they're doing aligns with what you want to do. And yeah, I just always background check people before I work with them.
Totally understand that. We did have one question in the chat, and it's totally fine if you say no. Someone says, do you offer one-on-one classes? Do you do any kind of coaching stuff?
Who asked that?
I don't
think I saw that.
Yeah, in the chat there, it's Elvinia. I always pronounce it incorrectly, but it says right underneath King Lotier, says, do you offer any one-on-ones?
Oh, okay. I missed that. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good.
I do not. I don't feel that I'm at a level to be able to do that yet, but I am happy to answer questions. If you send me a message on Instagram or Twitter, I'm not gonna take your money. That's like my thing. I'm just like I don't feel comfortable taking people's money at this point. And so I'm like I'm always happy to help out. If you've got specific questions, DM me. I'm happy to help answer and like help people grow. Cause also I don't know. There's a lot of people who are like, I haven't done a whole lot. I'm gonna teach this class and charge you $200. Like, no.
Yeah, I see stuff like that all the time.
Yeah, just ask me. I'm please DM me if you've got something.
Now, as you went along your journey, yes, you said in the last episode that the last time that you were on here that, yeah, you did like, I think you said like for your first 8 months, you were just doing so many classes. And then you found personally at that time that you learned a lot more through the auditions than you were getting from those classes. And maybe I'm like misremembering, but that was like kind of I guess some of the things I took, that you had wished that you were doing more auditions in those 8 months. So I guess part of what I'm asking is, as someone is trying to get into their career, there's always this level of, I need to reach a certain level before I start auditioning. If you could look at Melissa White back when she was starting her career, how would you shift that to feel like you, I guess, to get you to where you think a Melissa White's natural progression should have been?
I would have auditioned on day one. I'd be like, oh, I think voice acting sounds fun. Great, do it. You know, like there's so many indie projects online, like on Twitter and Casting Call Club. Those are both great places to look. You can audition for those in your closet with a USB mic, you know, like you don't have to break the bank just to try something out. And I think like with any skill, the more you practice, the better you're going to get. And so if you pair auditioning with those classes or that one-on-one coaching, you're going to improve so much more because you're doing the craft every day. It's not like, okay, let me take a class a week, you know? It's like, what are we waiting around for? For me, it was perfection, which I'm still not there, by the way, and I never will be. So it's just kind of goofy of me to be like, I'm not good enough to audition. It's like, okay, start small. We're not going to be doing persona on day one. You know, like that's kind of my thought. I was like, I only have one chance to make a good impression. I'm like, okay, but there's so many indie creators out there who are just looking for people to help them out. So day one, I would have started auditioning, and I hate that I waited 8 months because I think like when I started was still the like COVID boom of remote work. And so people were getting on these like agent rosters and like getting these like huge opportunities remotely. And by the time I was like, okay, now I'm ready, the door had started to close. And the rosters had started to get overrun and super full because I waited around. So, like, don't wait around. Just start. Just do it. Just do it.
Hey, I will say, you are on a roster now, right? Is that correct?
I'm on a lot of rosters.
So, see, like, you still worked out. It still worked out for you. So, with that, I think something that you highlighted a couple of times in last episode as well as in this episode is that obviously this is a tough business. It's going to be tough. You're going to get, you're going to audition for a lot of things and you're not going to land a lot of things at the same time. So I guess like how would you just like tell someone about that? Like as I guess the way that I want to ask it is like, how would you try to prepare someone for the grind that they will need to experience if they're serious about trying to do something like this?
I think it's similar to what I was saying about like doing it first, because I think people get caught up in like the gear and the classes and all this stuff that they're spending money on. I'm like, okay, but do you even like it though? Because like you can invest in all this stuff, but at the end of the day, you're gonna be in a padded room auditioning for hours on end a lot of days. You're also going to be like marketing, like it's not just being in your booth all the time. So it's like doing the research, looking at, I always drop this, but I want to be a voiceactor.com is just so valuable for like the expectations that will be placed on you if you decide to pursue voice acting. So I just think doing it as soon as possible, trying it. Like that's why it's like just audition and see what happens. And you might be like, "Oh, this isn't as fun as I thought," or "Oh, this is a lot of work," because it is. So before we like get a little too crazy about everything, I would say just start doing the process and then decide after if you're like, "Oh, I'm actually going to do this," because I think they have a favorite anime and they're like, I'd love to be an anime, and it is exciting. It's cool, but it's like, okay, but let's look at the steps we have to take to get there and then decide like, oh, okay, this is going to take a while. So I think like just being rational about it is really important.
Yeah, I will. One, I want to say thank you for shouting out the website, and I can't remember it right now, but I had just found this website. I want to say like last month or something like that. Did not know it existed until then, and I agree. I thought it was a great resource just to even read, just to even just like take a glance at. So I'll make sure that is in the description as well, off of that. And then secondly, off of it is just like lending to my own experiences. Like I used to coach basketball. My current job and career does not allow me to coach basketball, but there was so many times I would hear players talk about, for instance, I want to go play in college, or I want to go play that. And the thing that I'd always have to try to tell them is you have to fall in love with practice then, because there's so many steps and practices that you need to do. The games are great. They're fun. They're enjoyable. And so like in your situation, it's probably like, yeah, getting this big gig is going to be so fun, right? You're going to enjoy it. But at the same time, to connect you to be ready for that moment, there's so many other things that you need to do in the meantime. Yeah, we have a couple of things. One question I want to shout out is obviously Kieran, as you had talked about one of your friends, but he has a great question that I think still is here, is thinking about how your skills and mindset have evolved over 5 years. What advice would the experience you give to the you just starting out in voice acting? And I know we briefly touched on it, but hearing it phrased in that way, do you feel like anything what you said would change, or how would you approach that?
Yeah, I would say lower your expectations. Because I think when you start out, you're like, oh yeah, I've got all this determination and I can totally do this, and you have this confidence to be able to get really far really fast, or at least I did. And that wasn't the case, like that I wanted myself to be perfect really fast. I thought that I was going to be in anime really fast. 5 years in, still not in it,
We're going to make it happen.
And so it's like, it will. I fully think that it will. But it's just like, you have to be patient. Be patient with the process. Be patient with yourself. There are some people who've got this like just natural like kind of skill to this, where you still have to practice. You still like have to make sure that you're getting the coaching and training. I wasn't one of those people. So like I couldn't just be, competitive right out the gate. So lowering my expectations would be one thing. Jumping right into one-on-one coaching, jumping right into auditioning. And also, I guess like back then it would have been different, but accepting that a lot of work is local and like you're just not gonna see a lot of those auditions unless you live somewhere, which sucks. But keeping that expectation in check too.
Yeah.
Lower your expectations on my wall. You should. I mean, I need to. That's for sure.
So funny
My
enough.
sky high expectations.
So funny enough, speaking on that real quick, is my wife and I, we made vision boards this year. You'll find this funny, actually, Melissa. I've had this vision board to be made since I met you, and it just now finally made it.
Nice.
But on there,
Nice.
I kind of have exactly. It's not technically lower your expectations, but it's like embrace the journey. It's what I put in there. Embrace the journey.
Yep.
So just it's very funny. It's like I kind of have it on my wall right now. It's right over there on the right side. So I want to ask actually, so before I kind of start to wrap it up, there was one more question. It was coming off this is the basics, like, is remote VA work more common now, though? So I guess it's like off of that is, I know obviously, as you can see, you're in Arizona, or I shouldn't say you can see, everyone can see on here. You're in Arizona. You're in your own home studio that you had. I don't know if the correct word would be installed, but like it is your own home studio booth that you bought and put in. So you do these recordings. So I guess, how do you balance that out? Because I know that what you're trying to infer is you do obviously land these gigs. We see this, but the balance between local work and the remote work that you're also able to accomplish.
So 98% of my work is remote. So all the stuff that we talked about today was remote. And so it's still possible. I will say again, like, be realistic, because a lot of it, unfortunately, is going back to in studio only. Anime especially is very much in studio only for the most part. So you have to be kind of willing to be flexible. So like, there is plenty of work you can do fully remote. Commercials, they don't care where you are. They don't care at all. Audiobooks also don't care. It's just a lot of the character work has gone back to LA only, Dallas only. And so it's like, you have to be either willing to let that work go or willing to travel without being compensated for it, and just being like, yep, I can record in studio, but don't expect the studio to pay your travel expenses, because they won't. Because otherwise they'll just hire somebody who actually lives there, like that's just how it is. But yeah, very possible. I will say remote work, very possible. Just, you are going to be locked out of some stuff.
Yeah.
If you won't travel.
So I kind of have like 2 extra questions, and then we'll wrap up the podcast. And so the first question I have is, obviously we're early in 2026. As I made mention on your IMDb page, you already have some things that obviously say are upcoming for you. But what is 2026 looking like for Melissa White? Both literally and at the same time, which is why it's 2 questions. What are you envisioning 2026 being like for yourself?
So I want to make sure that I am in person more. I want to take more in-person classes with agents and casting directors. So my biggest goal this year is to get an LA agent. That's been really difficult. I've been trying pretty much the whole time. I've been voice acting like since I've had a demo anyway. And I also really need to update my demo reels, which is really sad because they're expensive. But my demo reels, like my character reel, my commercial reel, are very outdated, and don't reflect my skill, which is probably why agents are like, no, we don't want you. So yeah, I think updating my reels and doing more like in-person classes are my main things that I really want to do this year.
All right, perfect. Well, obviously, as I made mention before, big cheerleader for you over here in Minnesota, hoping that of course things continue to be in the up and up. Obviously, I'd love to bring you back onto the podcast maybe later in this year when we do a reflection on what was the year of 2026 for Melissa White. But the last thing that I want to ask is, just in general, I'm going to kind of open the floor for you for a second. It's just like, is there anything else you'd like to leave our listeners with on the podcast before we send you on your way so you can enjoy your Saturday?
I just want to say that, like, this is very doable. If it's something that you're passionate about, you absolutely can. You just have to have a lot of grit and determination, and if you love it, do it. I just think that there are opportunities out there for everybody. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I would love to come back again.
Of course. Thank you so much for being here once again. And everybody, thank you so much for tuning in here to the One More Game podcast. With that being said, we're going to wrap it up here. So, Melissa, again, thank you so much. Everybody, thank you for being here. Tune into the One More Game podcast next time. And until then, enjoy yourselves.